Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to look at the 2010 Constitution of Kenya, but through a slightly different lens. We're not just looking at it as some dry, supreme legal text, but rather as a dynamic, living map of your personal power as a citizen. So let's trace exactly how this document places the individual, that's you, at the absolute center of the republic.
Okay, let's dive right into this. When you look at the official law reports for the 2010 Constitution, Article 2 makes this massive, definitive statement right out of the gate. It says, "This Constitution is the supreme law of the Republic. It binds all persons and all state organs." What does that actually mean? It means absolutely no one gets to claim or exercise state authority unless this specific document says they can, and any other law or custom that contradicts it, completely void. It's the ultimate rulebook.
So here's our clear step-by-step roadmap for today. We're going to cover power to the people, your Bill of Rights, land and the environment, leadership and integrity, and finally, elections and the legislature.
Let's start with Chapter 1, Power to the People. Article 1 literally makes the citizen the immediate protagonist of the whole story. All sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that the government doesn't actually own power. They only borrow it from you. The Constitution makes it crystal clear that you can exercise this sovereign power either directly or through your democratically elected representatives at both the national and county levels. But make no mistake, the power originates with you.
Moving on to Chapter 4, your Bill of Rights.
We see your everyday protections vividly in Article 26, which covers the right to life. The document takes a very definitive stance on this, stating explicitly that the life of a person begins at conception and that a person shall not be deprived of life intentionally. However, it also details very specific exceptions, noting that abortion is not permitted unless a trained health professional determines there's a need for emergency treatment or if the life or health of the mother is in danger. Now, this naturally leads us to a pretty critical question. Can your fundamental rights ever be limited? Like, what happens during a major crisis or a state of emergency? Well, Article 24 does outline that rights can be limited by law, but only if it's reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society. But, there is a catch. And here's that catch. Article 25 details 4 absolute rights that the state can never, ever suspend, no matter the circumstance, not even during a state of emergency. These are freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment, freedom from slavery or servitude, the right to a fair trial, and the right to an order of habeas corpus, which basically means the right to be brought before a judge if you're ever detained. Your core dignity is locked in. Let's shift gears to Chapter 5, Land in the Environment.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how Article 61 officially classifies all land in Kenya. It states that land belongs to the people collectively and breaks it down into 3 distinct categories. You've got public land, which is your national parks, roads, and all minerals. You've got community land, held by communities based on culture or ethnicity, so that's ancestral lands, community forests, and shrines. And finally, private land, held by any person under freehold or leasehold tenure. But look at the number 99. Article 65 places a very strict boundary on land ownership for non-citizens. A non-citizen can only hold land on a leasehold tenure, and that lease absolutely cannot exceed 99 years. Even if some older document tries to grant a longer lease to a non-citizen, the Constitution automatically and legally reduces it to 99 years. It's a brilliant mechanism that protects local resources. And the Constitution doesn't just care about who owns the land. It protects the physical environment itself. Article 69 creates a really unique legal mandate. It legally obligates the state to work to achieve and maintain a tree cover of at least 10% of the total land area of Kenya. That's not just a nice policy suggestion. It's literally baked right into the supreme law of the land, right alongside the obligation to protect genetic resources and biological diversity. Next up, Chapter 6, Leadership and Integrity. So, since the people are the true owners of sovereign power, Chapter 6 examines the strict rules for the state officers who borrow it from you. Article 73 frames authority strictly as a public trust. It dictates that authority has to be exercised in a way that brings honor to the nation and dignity to the office. And honestly, more importantly, it explicitly states that authority vests in the state officer the responsibility to serve the people, rather than the power to rule them. It demands objectivity, selfless service, and real accountability to the public. To actually enforce this, the Constitution introduces some very specific, tangible anti-corruption measures. Under Article 76 on financial probity, any gift or donation given to a state officer on a public occasion is legally considered a gift to the Republic. It has to be delivered to the state. Plus, state officers are restricted from maintaining bank accounts outside Kenya. The goal here is completely clear: ensure leaders are financially and practically loyal to the Republic.
Let's move to Chapter 7 and 8, Elections and the Legislature. So, how do you physically lend out your power? Well, it starts with the number 290. Under Article 89, the nation is carved into 290 distinct constituencies. This ensures that localized voices from literally all corners of the country reach the National Assembly. And to keep things fair, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has to review these boundaries every 8 to 12 years. They do this to ensure populations are represented as equally as humanly possible.
And this brilliantly illustrates the careful balance of power in Parliament. You don't just have one house, you have two distinct bodies with very separate roles. As Articles 95 and 96 lay out, the National Assembly represents the people of those 290 constituencies and appropriates funds for the national government. The Senate, on the other hand, represents the 47 counties, serving to protect county interests and overseeing the national revenue that gets allocated directly to those devolved county governments.
Now, what if you want to step up from citizen to legislator? Article 99 details the exact requirements to run for Parliament. You've got to be a registered voter and satisfy certain educational and moral requirements. You can be nominated by a political party, or you can actually run as an independent candidate. If you run as an independent for the National Assembly, you need the support of at least 1,000 registered voters. For the Senate, you'll need 2,000 signatures from your county.
But perhaps the absolute most empowering piece of legislation is found in Article 104, the right of recall. This is huge. This proves that your power doesn't just magically disappear the day after you cast your vote. The electorate has the constitutional right to recall their member of parliament before the end of their term. It's the ultimate accountability mechanism, proving once again that the sovereign power remains firmly and permanently in the hands of the people.
So, we've seen how the 2010 Constitution is designed from the ground up to empower the citizen. From defining your absolute rights and protecting the very land you stand on, to placing strict financial leashes on public servants and literally giving you the power to hire and fire your representatives. It's not just a rulebook for them, it's a toolkit for you. So I'm going to leave you with this. As the ultimate source of sovereign power, how will you use this Constitution to shape your republic? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring your rights.